credits in movies and film, we have people who can't get the recognition they deserve. We have characters who can never get the finances and the pay that they deserve. And it's a shame. That the actor standing next to you, who brought absolutely nothing to the table, is able to acquire finances so greater than what you were able to provide. Now, what's up, Miami coach? Now, let's get to the gist of it because I want people to really understand it while we're talking about it. Because there's so many people confused and lost about everything that we've just pretty much displayed. Now, the instant gratification people get is that they see and believe their infinite wisdom right all the time, no matter what the situation could be, no matter what information is provided. Now, the problem I have with a lot of these scenarios is that scenarios are biased. They're made up on a premise that doesn't exist in reality. It exists in a functionality of a prism where they keep certain people on a clock and an agenda. They want you to believe that this is what you're worth because this is the rate that they want to pay you. It's just like at work, because that's all acting in Hollywood is. It's a job. So they're telling you that because of what school this person went to, what type of acting this person does, this is what dictates them getting this money. So, a person with on-job experience in Hollywood went to work at Paramount Studios, got contracted to do a movie that the big major distributor was Paramount Movies. They're excited. They told their family they've made it. They've got their big break in Hollywood. After grueling auditions, Paramount produced it. The show had one season. But something very dramatic happened in that one season. You want to know what it was? In that one season that went on, that was pretty successful, the actor was told, you know what? I think we're going to go in a different direction. They said, well, what are we doing? Well, your character seems to be pretty popular here, so we want to encourage that. We don't want to not encourage it. We want it to continue and flourish. So here's what we're thinking. We're thinking of having your character have episodes dedicated to him. So they said, well, yeah, sure. If you think that's the right way to go, they were like, oh, yeah, it's the right way to go. We love it. Let's do it that way. So they said, okay, we'll do it that way. Great sentiments, right? So as these sentiments are, enjoyed by everybody who was pretty much out there, sentiments is flying. People are up in arms. Did you know they never discussed it, a pay raise? So, once again, his manager, his agent said, hey, just for its and giggles, what are you getting paid an episode? They said, oh, it's not a lot. But my agent says that he can get me a better deal for my contract. Now, I don't want to say the actors' names, the shows, because I don't want people to focus on the particulars of that situation. All I can tell you is this. The actor was black and a man. The female was white. And that was it. She was paid $175,000 an episode. He was paid $40,000 an episode. Good afternoon. So, with all of these properties that's happening that are coming up and around these parts, it's a conspiracy. No, they started to do research to realize that black actors all were getting this bare floor minimum. And the actor next to him wasn't even the bigger star of the show. So how is the non-star of the show getting paid more than the person who is they're considering the star of the show, and they're gravitating the show around? So once they started to complain and say, hey, this isn't right, we need a pay increase. And they said, okay, fine. We're going to give you a $10,000 thing, bump it to $50,000. So they gave him $50,000 a year. Meanwhile, this girl got like 130 something thousand. It was crazy. So when the agent said, we know what she's getting paid, and they said, well, she went to this university, she has experience, she did this, she did that. And they said, well, my client has actual work experience in the business that far exceeds anything she could have learned at that school. They said, well, what you negotiate is what you get. So that's what you got. That's your contract. You're going to deal with it. Either take it or leave it. Because we can just get someone else. So they took the $50,000, thinking, okay, we'll do the show. After the show, we're going to have big opportunities. Paramount Movies, they promised everything, like, oh, you're going to be in this movie, blah, 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 blah. So Paramount, at the end of the show's run, said, nah, no thank you. They went in another direction. They did a spinoff of the show. And that show failed, and then they canceled that show, and then that guy was pretty much scrambling to do commercials and everything else, and was pushed out of Hollywood pretty much. So all of his dreams came crashing down, you know, after that show. So he became an agent and decided to help, actors and things of that nature. I'm going to represent them when they go in for meetings, and so this don't happen to them when they go in there. Mostly, he had people that was of color, and was working with African American actors, and as you could see, that they were able to play a dirty game to turn the actor against his agent and say, hey, you need a white agent. This guy really doesn't know anything. He was a child actor. He didn't work. He's bitter at the industry, and he's represented this person, and he's cost them that kind of money. I'm telling you, you should get another agent because I don't really want to work with this guy. He's temperamental. So they put out a bad word and name about him, and he started to sue Paramount, Columbia Pictures. Another one at the time was TriStar, who ended up going bankrupt. I believe in that, or they rebranded themselves to settle out their lawsuits for discrimination. It's a lot of things you just don't know. So they went to a different, like it was a completely different stanza that took place. Well, you have a litany of different people with their own ideals on what's good, what isn't good, what's great, what should be done here, what's not, what's flat. It's a lot of people with their own opinions, and those narratives don't usually complement each other when it comes to business or how you should move about. Now, things have gotten better as far as black actors, as far as getting opportunities they wouldn't normally have. Like, normally you'll see a hospital show and everybody in there is white, where these things have now changed. You'll see a drama show now, you see a black guy, he's the cop. You see the black lady who works in the receptionist area, she's a doctor. You're seeing more color on television as it is in real life. So look, you see another guy in the back, he's black, and people just try things, on the regular. They try to do certain assignments, they try to do certain things, and it just don't work in their favor, their nature, nothing. So I'm not gonna be the one that's out of the loop on a lot of these different subjects, but to say this is the least of people's problems, scenarios, or whatever it is that they're going through at the said time. Um, no, I'm somebody who believes in making sure the best qualities are accounted for. I wanted to make sure that people get their just due. So I started to do the research and find out in Hollywood that mostly it's a bar that for television shows, white actors are getting paid almost 3 to 4 times more, even from first film stepping in. Just for most of these coming of age films, guys are getting 75,000, 60,000 just to do a coming of age film starting out. Guess what blacks are getting? 7,000, 5,000, 10,000. Some was getting 20,000. The whole cast and crew was booked for less than $1 million to make a coming of age movie. Well, when you start rebooting something or making something more than what it is, now people are realizing that, hey, people of color are everywhere as far as college, the office. So you can try to keep in your personal space a certain dynamic, but it's not true. You have Samoans, you have people that's from China, you have Hispanics. You might not put them in your everyday walk of life, but the fact of the matter remains that it just not might not be your cup of tea. Uh, Vidmark Entertainment, which normally does a lot of adult film, they went into actual real movies before, and they were talking about putting blacks in the movies, and they didn't mind doing nudity or it might be some scenes that are nude. They didn't mind. They didn't care. They said, okay, here's what we're going to do. So one of the actors who were black got paid $10,000, right? This is like one of his second films or whatever. This is a good role for him. So the script kept changing. Then they said, okay, well, here is a scene where you're gonna be stripped down and made him do full frontal. There was no empty set, and he's standing there for hours while people are prepping, getting things set up. And he's standing there completely naked, no towel, no robe, nothing. They just got him completely naked, standing on his mark. And the mark is, of course, where they want you to stand because they don't want, when they cut and go away, they don't want you to be somewhere that you're not supposed to be. So everybody has their marks. So they're all standing on their mark. And he's standing on his mark. He's standing there, and he was like, I stood there for about 45 minutes completely nude, no towel or nothing. And I'm like, what are we doing? And they were like, no, 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 no. We'll be ready in 1 minute. Just don't move. So now they're filming the scene, right? So he's been out here 45 minutes. It's freezing cold. He's standing out there to film this one shot of this nudity, which they're not even gonna show. They say the frontal, but he's completely nude with no covering. And next thing you know, shots from that, even though they shot him from up top, they didn't show it in the film, but his nude, full nude, complete nude, and everything leaked. And where it leaked to, they were like, how did this end up on a German, uh, like, adult film site? So he sued Vidmark Entertainment. They paid him, settled everything out of court. They said it was a disgruntled former employee who was fired. He did it, and they said he should be in jail. So that became right. No, no. That's why when people specialize what they do, and you look around, and we look at what happened with Amari Hardwick, right, from Power. That's probably the biggest thing that we know of that we've seen publicly is how he was being paid, and he was paid 150,000 per episode for every season with no pay increase, which was incredibly crazy. Yeah, well, they got to make it make sense because, well, when people are ready for the truth, then they'll get the truth. But when you start seeing your counterparts getting paid 300,000 an episode, 250,000 an episode, and they're not even the stars of the movie, that's a problem. This man is the face of the network and wasn't even getting that money. Taraji P. Henson was making, she was starring in a movie and wasn't making 150,000 a movie. She was doing like 50,000, 75,000, and she had been in multiple movies. She took less money to be in the Benjamin Button movie with Brad Pitt. She got nominated for an Oscar. She should have won. She had to pay for her own hotel room in New Orleans for the reshoots out of her own money. Wasn't reimbursed to her at all. She had to pay for her own reshoots. And they said, "Oh, this is nice. Oscar nomination is going to open up doors for you." It did not. She did not get a pay increase. It didn't open up doors. It just made more problems for her. As it shows you, Oscars don't mean anything when you're black. None of this stuff is going to open up any doors because the people that gravitate to you, they don't care about. So now they knew they had to start making changes once people started to notice and families got more diversified that they're not being represented in these films and entertainment. Plus, they see the power structure of the dollar. Now that Hollywood's not making all this money anymore and their movies are not selling, but the movies that have culture and different races and variations are the films that sell. They're like, wow, okay, here we go. See, they market Vin Diesel as a white man, not a mixed man. Paul Walker's white. They're the cast of Fast and the Furious. When Fast and the Furious was pretty much rejected by Vin Diesel, they brought in John Singleton, who brought in Tyrese, brought in Ludacris, brought in the Asians, and he made it a cultural movie. They took the movie back from him and said, thank you, we got the formula now. So they went and took it to Tokyo and made Tokyo Drift because they saw that, okay, the Asians, man, they love cars too. Oh, man, this is great. Now we're getting this international money. We're going all the way to Tokyo. But realized that this Alabama accent guy wasn't the Vin Diesel. They needed Vin Diesel back to sell it or make it about Paul Walker. It's got to be one or the other. So they brought back the original cast, gave it all to Vin Diesel, said, you creatively structure this thing. And the formula was already created by a black man, John Singleton. And they just said, we're going to follow it all the way through. And you got Vin Diesel for like 6, 7 movies going, family. And everybody else is following suit. But what did they do? They kept the dynamic of Ludacris, Tyrese, and they have an Asian guy in there now, and not the Asian woman. They just went and found another Asian. They found another white lady who's from Israel, put her in there, and now it's like a whole gumbo pot of different races. Now you got Brazilians, you have everybody in here because it's a cultural movie. Everybody got somebody they relate to in the film. You got a Korean in there. You got all kind of stuff going on. Fast cars and hot women. That's how it always go. Oh, the Ice Cube thing talking about motorcycles, torque. Yeah, that was supposed to be the new Fast and the Furious. And then they tried to diss Fast and Furious in the trailer by having the 2 cars racing and you see the motorcycles fly past them. Torque. Like, get out of here. Motorcycles rule. Torque. So, yeah, it was crazy. Biker Boys, people like that better than Torque. I'll tell you that now. Biker Boys was the better movie. Well, you got all of these different situations, right, that are transpiring, that's because people understand one thing. When they're not being treated properly, who's going to represent them? There's not a lot of people out here with the wherewithal to say, hey, we know what's going on. We're going to try to stop it. We, we're on top of this thing and this is the way it should go. People are, yeah, people love to be the center of attention. And people love to go in and act and say, hey, you pay your dues at the end, you get what you want. That doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen for black people, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen for us. Well, people have to find out what it is that they want, what it is that they want to see. For me, it's always going to be different. Mm. No, it's more about demand, more than anything. Like I become so tired of all the like nonsense. I do. I becoming so tired and drained. Yeah. I've just done a lot today. Let's just say that. But not on Carcino for Life and the Patreon. So we got a lot going. But why is the pay gap still there? They've done nothing to stop the pay gap. The pay gap is still there. People are not being paid what they should. And we don't understand why this is happening still. If they're supposedly doing what they're supposed to do, why is there still a pay gap? Why blacks can't even crack the 100,000 mark? And then when they do crack the 100,000 mark, they're basically put in a situation where they have to beg and cry and plead for everything. That's where I get tired. I get wore down from it in actuality. It's almost like you become desensitized to a lot of it. Yeah, well, no, man, it's gonna be pretty interesting. Just watch what I put out today on the Patreon. It's gonna cause a lot of attention. I'm out.